those of us who are elected.
We begin with breaking news. As of midnight tonight, vaccine passports are gone in Alberta. The Premier announcing a plan to remove restrictions, including masks for those under 12. Here's Jason Kenney with more on what he calls a careful and prudent plan.
The first starts with children and youth. Step one will remove almost all restrictions affecting children, including removing the mask mandate for all K-12 students effective this weekend. Outside of the school setting, kids 12 and under will now be exempt from the general mask mandate that will continue to apply in indoor settings for approximately 3 weeks to come. As I have long said, kids have been subjected to a heavy and I think unfair burden throughout the pandemic. And it is given the very low threat that COVID-19 poses to the health of children. And so the point is simply this, that the restriction exemption program has served its useful purpose. It's done its job. It is no longer leading to higher vaccination rates. In fact, we have seen our vaccination rates effectively frozen since early December. And so our approach to COVID must change as the disease changes. Long-awaited optimism this announcement rather gives a sense of optimism and hope to Albertans. I know that some will say this is too much change and that we are moving too fast. But please keep in mind that we have the benefit of a few weeks being behind a few weeks of other jurisdictions, such as the United Kingdom, and we can watch what happens as they return to a regular way of life. For example, in Britain, most restrictions have been dropped as the Omicron wave has subsided. And aside from masking in high-risk settings such as acute care and mandatory isolation for people with COVID, there are no other countrywide mandates in Britain. Cases and hospitalizations for COVID are continuing to drop there, and in all the other countries I mentioned that have lifted measures with the exception of Denmark.
Premier Kenney says Alberta's plan to lift COVID-19 health measures is a three-stage plan. In addition to removing the vaccine passport, the first step of the plan will also include removing all capacity limits on venues, except for those over 500 as of tonight midnight. Kenney calls it a prudent plan to get Albertans' lives back to normal as COVID-19 hospitalizations decline. Stage 2 will take effect March 1st and will include lifting indoor mask mandates pending Alberta's total number of hospitalizations. The province would then move to phase 3 of the plan, which includes removing all measures at a later day. Kenney said the decision to remove restrictions came as Alberta has passed the peak of Omicron 3 weeks ago. Now, Premier Kenney said even with the plans to lift the restrictions, it could be slowed if our hospitalization numbers begin to rise.